Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next speaker, Maish Saidel-Keesing, presenting the topic, Revolutionizing Deployment, System Initiative Meets Containers.
Thank you very much for that wonderful AI introduction. The name was almost there, but my name is Maish Saidel-Keesing, but fine, no worries, perfect. I'm actually very, very happy to be here. It's actually my first time in Lithuania. And yesterday when I was walking around doing a little bit of touring, I was trying to get back to my roots. And actually it's quite funny because yes, my family was in Lithuania from the late 18th century till almost the Second World War, born and died here. I was born in a completely different country in South Africa. If you know a little bit about the Jewish history, that's pretty much what happened. A lot of the Jews left from Lithuania to go to South Africa. But still, there's a lot of history here. And the thing about history is that it's nice and familiar and comfortable. We know what we're talking about. And when you encounter something which is old and looks familiar to you, or something which you identify with, it gives you a good feeling. And on the other case, we also love modern things. We like doing things in a new way, learning new stuff. And the reason we try to do things in a more modern way is to get things done as fast as possible, with as little effort as possible, spending as little money as we can. That's the way I look at it, and specifically in technology. So, how is this all connected to the talk? You'll see now. Approximately 10 months ago, I encountered a blog post, something about called a technology or a new product called System Initiative. And we'll talk a little bit about more what the actual product is. And I said, wow, this looks wonderful. It's right up my alley. It works with the products that I'm working with in my company in AWS. And I'll propose a talk. And the talk got accepted 10 months ago, approximately, or 8 months ago. And since then, I kind of left that on the back burner and didn't do very much about it until I started working again with this talk. I liked the product at the time. It looked very nice, looked very interesting, but not everything turned out the way it was, and that we'll see further down the road exactly how that actually turned out. Wasn't all smooth sailing, and we will go through the journey kind of together. So what originally was planned to be a flashy demo and a wonderful thing that everything works perfectly is not going to be in this talk because that's not what happened. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about tooling on containers and a little bit about AWS, and we'll see how that goes. So, as I said, my name is Maish Saidel-Keesing. I'm a developer advocate for one of the service teams in AWS. I assume you know what AWS is. I hope so. If not, we're a cloud company and provide a lot of different services that our customers can use, located all over the world. My role as a developer advocate is to sometimes do what I'm doing today, and that is to come up and speak on stage, but also to speak to you, attendees and customers, to hear your feedback about our specific products and my specific product, which that I'm embedded in one of the service teams in ECS, Elastic Container Services, to get your feedback, to hear your pain points, and see how we can improve our products directly with part of the service team instead of going through the whole chain of sales or account teams that you might have. I have direct access to the engineers who are writing the software which you use daily. So, what is our agenda for today? A tiny bit about what System Initiative is, a little bit about containers, Elastic Container Service, ECS, and more about platform engineering, which we'll dive a little bit more deep into and see how the talk goes. So, System Initiative. System Initiative is an open source project founded by two people, Adam Jacobs, and I apologize if I am butchering his name on camera. Where is my mouse? Mahir Lupinacci. I hope I said it correctly. So let me go back there for a second. And it was, we all know what DevOps was supposed to be. DevOps was the vision of getting developers and operators or people running systems to work together properly in one streamlined team, or in a way with using tooling that they could do that properly. And System Initiative was founded as a tool, again as a tool, to help that process along the way. But we all know, I hope at least this is what I feel, is that DevOps is not, and probably this will be a hill that might die on one day, it's not a person, it's not a team, and it's not a tool. DevOps is a culture or a cultural change inside your organization that you need to go through in order to streamline your workloads and your deployments. And they came up with this tool, as I said, it's one of its tools to help you with that process. Okay, so yeah, we're back. So containers. Is anybody in the room using containers? Is anybody in the room not using containers? Can I ask you why? Not yet. It's, okay. So the answer from the audience was that they're not there yet, and that's why they're here today also to learn about these things. But I'm hopefully very sure that you're going to learn a lot more today and tomorrow, not only about containers, but modern or applications and a lot of other things as well. But containers have pretty much become the de facto standard of deploying, the unit of deployment today in modern application architecture. It's the reason being is because, as you can see on the ship, they're all pretty much the same. In other words, from the outside, what's inside the container can be whatever you pretty much want, and it can be, if we're talking about the analogy of containers on the ship, it can be toys or food or clothing, but the outside box is a standard thing which you can use and stack them in this very specific way, which makes it very easy to ship, offload, unload, and deal with and move things around. Pretty much the same thing with containers. Containers has a standard wrapper with an open standard which everybody uses, and you can use that actual container to do a lot of things and run it whenever you want. Most important thing, it pretty much works everywhere. And when we're talking about working everywhere, it means it works on your laptop, Windows or Linux or Mac or wherever it may be. And you can move it out of your laptop onto physical servers, your on-prem infrastructure, into a cloud or many clouds, because the same package unit is the same and it works pretty much everywhere. If it is on your Kubernetes cluster, if it's on your ECS cluster, the same unit or container will still work. Of course, there's wrappers around that you need to put inside and configuration in order to make that actually easily adapt to the very specific deployment and environment you're dealing with, but the actual unit is the same and it works pretty much everywhere else, which is wonderful. We all know the wonderful meme of "it worked on my machine." So this pretty much solves that issue. Again, not 100% because there's a lot of wrappers depending on where you're deploying, but the actual unit will actually work and you don't have to worry about that. So a lot of you might be familiar with AWS and ECS, and if you're not, let me just explain. Amazon ECS is Elastic Container Service. It's a native container service running on AWS itself. And when we talk about a native container service, it's also managed container service. In other words, it's a managed control plane that you don't have to touch. All you have to do is interact with it with your API, with your client into the API, and it runs. You don't pay for that. You just pay for the compute nodes that you actually run your workloads in your containers in the cloud. And they can be deployed on EC2 instances, which are virtual machines, or on a serverless compute platform called AWS Fargate, where we take in AWS more of the operational overhead of running your compute infrastructure in the cloud. And if you also want to, we have options for running closer out of the cloud, if it's ECS anywhere or on the edge. There's different options you can use for the same APIs, the same infrastructure, the same way of methodology of deployment. And when we talk about scale, it's an enterprise scale solutions. We take care of, and this was numbers from reInvent last year, which was November. So I assume it has been updated since then, but still I'll use the numbers because I don't have anything else at the moment. We launch a task as a container. We launch more than 2.25 billion tasks every single week across all of our regions. Tens of thousands of API requests per second across every single AWS region. And the interesting thing is that customers that come to AWS, 65% of all new customers want to do something in containers. If it be in ECS or in EKS in Kubernetes, Elastic Kubernetes service, but the customers are ready to move into those kind of mindset and that kind of technology. So let's talk a little bit about platform engineering for a bit. Has anybody heard this term before? platform engineering? I would say about half of the audience here in the room. And I hope some of you also, which are watching remotely, put your hand up. If not, that's okay. So I was looking for a definition of platform engineering. And I came across two different things, highlighted small points which I wanted here in green over here. This is from the Microsoft documentation on their website. In fact, it's a kind of a practice built from DevOps principles, improving developer experience. It's also a product and also a set of tools and systems in order to achieve it. The second one is from a gentleman by the name of Luca Galante, who is the CEO or founder of a company which, for the life of me, I can't remember what it was called at the moment, so we'll leave it at that, Luca. And it's pretty much the same thing. It's a discipline of designing tools and workflows and some kind of culture in order for you to manage your application on a regular basis. And the question I would like to pose today is, this sounds very familiar. This is what we were talking about DevOps, exactly the same thing. So are we kind of reinventing the wheel again, like we usually do on a regular basis, just calling it something new by looking for, providing a solution, looking for a problem, instead of finding a solution to providing a problem instead of, and by giving a solution. Instead of that, we should be actually providing a solution for an existing problem which already exists. It's a question which I will leave open-ended for you to think about. And I don't really have an answer at the moment. Something which I have to think about and see how this actually evolves. But to me, it looks like it's a bit of a, perhaps a hype, which is currently in the market, which might evolve and might become something bigger. Who knows? Nobody can really look into the future, but we'll have to see. I assume a lot of you know what the CNCF landscape is. Well, this is not it. This is the CNCF landscape is approximately 15 times more condensed with logos and icons on it. This is only the specific platform engineering landscape. So yes, there are so many tools, and again, it moves into different layers. And unfortunately, you can see it's a set of tools, essentially. That's what platform engineering is. But the thing is, why do we need it? And the answer, I think, is actually very simple. Because we want something simple to do. At least your developers and your engineers who are writing your software want to not deal with all the plumbing underneath. They want to write their code, commit their code, and have it deployed. So if we could achieve that, that would be amazing. But it's not always that easy. It's complicated. Very, very complicated. And again, it is not only, as I said, it's not only, as we talked about DevOps before, it's not a tool, it's not a person, it's not a team, it's a combination of culture change and all those three things together. Creating some kind of a platform or platform engineering team or a platform engineering tool, which a lot of people are calling today a developer portal, is something which a lot of companies want because they don't want to deal with the plumbing, as we said. But it's very difficult because essentially it's stitching a lot of different kind of tools together. We had our landscape before, which was all of these things. This is what your platform engineering tool team, your platform engineering team does. They make these things somehow work together. And it's not as if you can get something off the box, off the shelf from a specific company, because every single company is different. Some of them use GitHub Enterprise on-prem, some of them use GitHub in the cloud and not exactly the same. Some of them use Bitbucket or GitLab or some other source control mechanism and different kind of workflow engines if they have CI/CD processes or tools. Every single company is different because of your own history, and if you're starting new, then you have the wonderful privilege of being able to create everything from scratch and have no history. But most people do have that history in the back. As we said, with two people here who put up their hand that they're not using containers because they haven't got there, because I assume you're working for a company that it still has history in the background and you're not there yet. That history usually makes a lot of money, a huge amount of money. So it's not so simple to move and not so simple to move quickly. So the goal of all of them is to create something. What do you want to do? You want to make something that you will love. And when I say you will love, I mean specifically me who's using it. And if you're creating it, you have to be that user as well. In other words, I'm not going to create a product or a platform or developer portal for somebody which I will never use. You have to continue speaking to your customers, and your customers in this case are your engineers and developers, in order for them to understand. You have to understand their pain of what their problems that they're experiencing, and understand how you can improve and make their lives easier. What tools are they missing? What kind of information do they need to have in order for them to complete their job in a quicker way? In Amazon, we have a process or a mechanism called working backwards. The working backwards is a process which we speak with all of our customers to understand what they want or what they're experiencing in order to dive deep into the problem of what they're actually having at the moment and how they would like to try and solve it. We can come up with a solution which is specific for them, or give them insight into solutions which others have solved it. But the whole idea is to get the customer to focus exactly on what the problem is. Because if you say, okay, I want to deploy software faster, that's wonderful, but what is stopping you? Oh, because I have 5 different tools which are not working together. Okay, so what is stopping you from rewriting those things? My teams don't talk to each other. So then you have to start getting your teams. No software or solution will ever be able to solve problems which are not connected with the actual pain that you're experiencing. And in the end, all that they want is something which is simple. A simple way to deploy their software or test their software and iterate in a very, very fast manner in order for them to deliver the business value to your customers. That's all that company wants. That's all any company wants, is in order for you to deliver that value. And the way they can do it is by doing things in a fast and safe and secure standard way. So that might be by deploying and allowing them to deploy certain templates and certain standard infrastructure for them to do. But always remember that you need to leave yourself with certain flexibility in order to adapt to the future. Why am I going backwards? Customers often come to us and ask, where do I start? And the answer will be different for every single person, for every customer we talk to. What I like to do when I speak to customers is always to focus on easing your pain. And every single one of you know your problems in your environment and where things are not working correctly. And you know exactly what bothers you the most and maybe keeps you up in the middle of the night because something is not working. I tend to suggest to customers to focus on the really, really hard parts first, for a number of reasons. Firstly, because when it's solved and you working on it properly will solve the problem. Number one, you'll feel very, very proud and very happy that you managed to do it. Secondly, your business will love you because you managed to solve a very big problem. And third, by solving those problems, it will allow you to take what they call the easy apples off the tree. The very simple things which have already been solved before, it will allow you to invest further with all the other things which were maybe not as important, but will be easy to solve or change based on the changes that you have made, in order for you to continue your journey and gain further credibility in your team and help yourself. But you do have to be flexible. And when I mean flexible, it means nobody can predict the future. Well, maybe there are people, but I specifically definitely do not predict the future. I can guarantee you 100%, or 99.9, whatever, 5, 11, 9, however many you want, that 6 months ago, not a single pipeline or developer platform or DevOps team, wherever you would like to call it, was interested in Gen AI. Not one. Today, people are starting to think of how generative AI can help them with their CI/CD pipeline. For example, can it review pull requests automatically, do those tests on its own, and if it does find a bug, automatically based on some kind of generative AI model, look for a solution or present a possible solution to the developer who's getting the error in their logs to help them along their way. Nobody would have thought about this 6 months ago. If they did, they were very, very clever, but I don't know anybody that did. We can't predict the future. I don't know what's going to happen in a year or in 2 years down the road. But what you should be thinking about is trying to allow yourself as much flexibility as you can for the future to adapt and adopt new things. Things will change. They change every 6 months, every 1 year, every 2 years, every 5 years. They change. The way we worked in the IT industry approximately 5 years ago is completely different to what we're doing now. There's nothing at all similar in any way. The tools that I use today are not the tools that I used 5 years ago, not even 6 months ago, to be honest. So we continuously adapt and we continuously change. When I talk about planning for the future, actually, we were walking around yesterday as speakers. We went out for, sorry about that. We were walking around yesterday, the speakers, after we had dinner. Thank you very much, by the way, for the organizers which were organizing for us for that. And we came across this church. And I think it's called the St. Anne's Church, if I'm correct. Is that right? Yeah. And from what I understand, the legend goes, and this is what the tour guide told us yesterday, that there was a master architect or designer or engineer who started with a product, and he said, okay, we'll build the first floor. And then he was called away from some emergency or some kind of other project that he needed to, and he let his apprentices continue to work. And they added on some microservices on top of the monolith. And they continued to work and added even more microservices on top of the monolith. So whatever you plan in the beginning, of course, according to the legend, as far as I understood, when they finished the building, the master architect took them to the top floor and threw them off. But I hope nobody will get killed for adapting and changing over time with your products, with your solutions. But things will change. Whatever you thought about starting in the beginning, not necessarily will be what you end up with at all. Continue to benchmark on a regular basis your applications, your platforms. You don't want to become the bottleneck of everybody who's trying to deliver your software, which means you need to speak to your customers on a regular basis. And again, your customers are the people writing the software. Find out where they're encountering bottlenecks of any kind, and see how you can improve on a regular basis, adapt, change, because change is the only thing which is actually constant. I will try and do a demo, but I can't promise because the internet wasn't working, and the hotspot from my phone is also not working very well, but still. Okay, so system initiative, I did promise as part of the abstract demos. So I'd like to go back to the original story of talking about the fact of familiar and running after the new thing. So when I looked at, firstly, this is a screenshot of what System Initiative is. It's a UI tool which allows you to integrate and drag and drop different pieces on a canvas and connect them together, and with an apply change it will deploy and update all your infrastructure on a regular basis from in your AWS account. When I originally tried this tool approximately 10 months ago, after seeing this blog post, which was the integration where they added a module for Amazon ECS, said, well, this is going to be cool, I'm going to try it out. I did. At the time, you got a managed environment provided to you as a trial for 10 days, and you could set up the environment and start working. I did it, looked kind of cool, a bit slow at the time, but I said, okay, this is good enough for me to present a talk about it. I'll play with it more in the future and see how this goes. Fast forward about 7 or 8 months down the road. I didn't really touch it very much until then. It's not to say that the project isn't active. It's actually very, very active. It's very, they have regular commits on GitHub. They have regular sync and update meetings on YouTube, which they stream live for the team in order for their progress reports. So they're actually very active and are doing a lot of good work, and a lot of changes that have been happening since that first time that I touched the product a good couple of months ago. And when I try to deploy it now for the talk, there is no managed environment. So the managed environment that I had once upon a time no longer exists. You have to do everything locally, and that means deploying everything on your laptop. And there are very specific instructions of how to do this. And it works. It is not easy. Sorry, it is very easy, but it's not. It's a lot of moving parts in the background. They've abstracted everything into one command to bring up a developer environment, but you don't. To understand the underlying infrastructure takes a lot of a little bit more of a knowledge and deep acquaintance with these kind of technologies. But still, I tried to do that on my Mac. My Mac is 4 years old. I'm still waiting for a refresh, that's fine. But it ran, but my fans shut up because it used a huge amount of resources. I couldn't do anything else besides run this demo. And I said, I can't really, for example, run the demo on screen and present at the same time, so that's not going to work. So I deployed the same software as an EC2 instance inside the cloud in AWS in my account. A beefy instance. We're talking about something like 72 CPUs, 64 gigabytes of RAM, a very big machine. And because everything is built from scratch, everything is compiled at runtime. So this project is still in a very early stage. It is changing on a regular basis. For example, they rewrote the whole backend engine approximately 3 weeks ago. So it takes time. It runs pretty much okay. It's not easy. So my original idea of presenting a wonderful demo of container with system initiative will not really happen, because it's, to be perfectly honest, it's not a tool that you should be using in production. And I would not, yes, to play around with, perhaps, but the tool is not yet ready. There's a lot of problems with inside the tool that need to be addressed before somebody can actually say, okay, I would use this as a tool to deploy my own solution. Just as a matter of interest, they only got to the milestone of using their own tool to deploy their own software. In other words, the whole environment of development and production 3 weeks ago. So it takes time and iteration. And even though this was really a cool idea in the beginning as a demo, I'm not going to do that because I don't think it would be useful for you to invest too much time of trying to move everything over to this product, because it still has to evolve a little bit more. And of course, if you are interested, it's an open source project. So please feel free to participate in the Discord, where they have a very friendly community of people willing to help, answer questions. If you have any pull requests that you would like to submit to change software, you can also do that as well. What happened there? And my screen went. Yeah. 3 resources. First thing, of course, is the link for the system initiative on the web. Goes to the main site. You can learn a little bit more about the actual product. Of course, it takes you to the GitHub repo. The second one is a landing page for Amazon ECS, where you can learn more about containers and things that I do on a day-to-day basis. Third and last one is the platform engineering link, which is a platform engineering org, where you can learn more about platform engineering, the tools which are involved. You can get a much better version of the landscape screenshot that I pasted on my deck over here, so you can see exactly what we're talking about. My name is Maish. That's my email and Twitter handle. I am unfortunately flying out later this afternoon, so I won't be here for tomorrow. But if you have any questions, I would love to talk to you about containers, DevOps. I would say pretty much anything except for politics and religion, because I don't think that will go anywhere good. But if you want to talk about anything technology-wise, I'd be more than happy to sit down for the time that I have here for the rest of the afternoon. And if not, you can always reach me either by my email or ping me on Twitter. I'd be more than happy to answer anything or talk about anything technology-wise. And before we close, I would just like to say there was a couple of questions which came in from the Q&A.
There are no questions in Slido, but if you have any, I can bring the microphone. You can use this opportunity and ask.
Is anybody with questions? I promise you I don't bite.
Or you can shout.
if was the question, are there other products which do similar things? Okay, so the question was, are there other kind of products or solutions or open source products which do these kind of things as well? Yes, there are. They're in the top of that square on the bottom with the developer portal. One which is very, very popular today is something called Backstage, which integrates very, very well with Kubernetes. We actually have, and I specifically did a live stream on this 3 weeks ago, about a solution which we have where allows Backstage to integrate with not only Kubernetes, but also with ECS and with Lambda and a number of other products, which are, we have all kinds of modules which allow you to use that same developer portal to deploy those kind of things on many services within AWS. It's called OPA, not Open Policy Agent. It's OPA on AWS. If you look for that somewhere on the link on the internet, you'll find out what we're talking about. But a lot of companies which we are speaking with customers are using something called Backstage, which seems to be the most popular at the moment. It's not the only one. Again, will depend on the specific use case that you have, your organization, your culture. Any other questions? It has been my honor and privilege to speak here today. Thank you very, very much for inviting me.
Thank you also, Maish.
Thank you so much.
And see you at the Ask Me Anything corner.
Yeah, there's an Ask Me Anything corner somewhere outside, I understand.
It's near the check-in.
Near the check-in. I'll be there until approximately 5 o'clock and I have to start making my way back to go back home. Thank you very much for joining today, and I hope it was a useful session.